Today we're going to work on lesson 4, which is calculating the mode. The number or numbers that appear the most in a set of data is called the mode. So let's write that. And what helps me remember it is mode starts with MO, and so does most. And they're both four-letter words, so that helps me recall what the mode is. So we find the mode by looking for the number that we see most frequently. If two or more numbers appear with the same frequency, all of them are modes. Sometimes a set of data has no mode, so we can have no mode, one mode, or several modes. It is helpful to put the data in order from least to greatest first, particularly if the data set is large. You can also use some other kind of organizational tool where you circle numbers as you see they're repeated and start making a tally, get a large set of data, whatever you think will work for you. So let's go ahead and start. So again, we'll use the data from example A to find the mode of the quiz scores. And it says, be sure to show your work. We're going to start by starting and putting these numbers in order. So I see that there's 2 3s, there's no 4s, I see 1, 2, 3 5s, I see 2 6s, and 2 7s. So as we look at this, you can see that every one of the data items has been repeated. There's 2 3s, 3 5s, 2 6s, and 2 7s. So the number that is repeated most frequently is 5. It repeats 3 times when all the other numbers repeat just once. So the mode of this data would be 5. That's the number that appears the most. So this set of data has one mode. So let's look at our next set of data. Using the data sets that are below, we're going to show our work and calculate the mode. Remember, some data sets have no mode, one mode, or more than one mode. So as we scan the data, we're going to, again, I prefer to put it in order, but we don't necessarily have to. We could just start and say, do I have any repeats for 7 and 8 tenths? Nope, nothing repeats. Is there another 9 and 2 tenths? Nothing repeats. Is there a 6 and 3 tenths in this data? No. Besides the one we see. Does 8 repeat? No. And do we see 4 and 7 tenths again? No. So each one of these numbers is used only once. So that means that we have no mode. What we don't want to do is we do not want to write 0 because 0 could be an actual digit. So we don't want to write 0. We prefer to say no mode. Let's look at more sets of data. Data set B looks like it has more numbers than the last set. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting it in order. I see that there's 183. There's 198. The next number I see in order, there's $224, and there's 2 of those. So $224 and another $224. And the next number in order would be 230, but it turns out there's 2 of them, 230 and 230. And then the next number I see is 239. And the last number is 500. Now I want to make sure I've accounted for all the data. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. There should be 8 data items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they're accounted for. And you've probably noticed when we're doing this that I see 2 $224 and 2 $230 data, and everything else, every other number is only used once. So in this case, we have 2 modes. So we have $224, and $230. So it's okay to have multiple modes. What I'd like you to do is pause the video and see what the mode is for data set C and data set D. When you're finished, please replay the video. For data set C, 80 is the only number that's repeated twice. Everything else is listed just once. So the mode for this set of data is 80%. Please move on to data set D. If I look at data set D, I want to make sure I've accounted for all the data. I have 9 numbers here, and if I count, there are 9 numbers here. Now, once again, my preferred way is to put it in order. However, if you'd like to start with a number and see if you can find something that's repeated and see if it's repeated more than once, more than twice, that's great. So whatever way you use, please be organized about it and keep a list of how many numbers you see. For instance, I see that 7 is used twice, so I might be tricked in thinking that's the mode. So if you're going to use another method, I would say, okay, 7 is used twice, and 15, 18 just once, and I see 19 is used 3 times, and then I see 22 is used twice, and it's easy for me to spot this because it's in order. So this is the number that's used the most. In this case, it's been used 3 times when 22 and 7 have only been used once. So 19 is the mode. So finally, I'd like you to take a moment and please describe in words how you found the mode. And I can see this is a typo. Would you include the E at the end? When you're finished describing in your own words how to find the mode, we'll do the final paragraph. Finally, some data sets contain an outlier, and that's spelled O-U-T-L-I-E-R, outlier. An outlier is a number or data item that is very different from the rest of the data items. In certain situations, we choose not to include the outlier in our calculations because an outlier skews the results when trying to find the center of our data, particularly when we're trying to work with the average. So let's look at some examples of the data that we used recently. So if we go back and look at this data set, so you may have noticed that there's a whole group of numbers that are in the 200s, lower 200s, and then there's 2 numbers that are in the upper 100s. And even though these are 100, these are into 200s, they're really not that far apart. There's maybe a spread about 50 or so. The range would be a little bit more than 50. However, this number is much different. It's twice as large than the next smallest number. So in this case, 500 would be considered an outlier. When we look at this data, again, there's nothing that really stands out that much considering it goes from 66 to 98. These were, I wouldn't say necessarily, there's an outlier here. I suppose we could say 66. It's the only number that's not in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. So we could call that an outlier, but it's not quite as different as this 500 is. And again, there could be an argument that maybe the 7s are not numbered in the teens, but again, the spread of this is from 7 to 22, and that's not that large. This, again, was almost twice as much as this number. So in this case, we could say that 500 is an outlier compared to the rest of the data. Thanks for listening, and you have a wonderful afternoon.